Hey friends, how's it going? Ash here, welcome back to Gents. Hope that you are doing well. As I'm shooting this video, we're basically just a little bit over a month into the new year. And with that in mind, I wanted to check and see what the hot sellers are right now. So what are the most popular fragrances? What is everybody buying right now? How has that changed over the past year or so? And going back further than that, how are things shifting right now? So what's becoming more popular? What's becoming less popular? That's what we're taking a look at today. Now, all the numbers that I pulled from are within the United States. So we're talking Macy's, Sephora, Ulta, stores like that, because that's where the majority of fragrances are actually sold. Now, I know you and me, we shop at discounters typically, right? Unless it's something that's like brand new and you have to buy it at full retail, but usually people that are in the know are gonna be buying from discounters. But the overwhelming majority of people that are buying fragrances are actually buying them at full retail. So when you look at the best sellers at those sites and see the commonalities, that tells you a little bit more about what's actually really popular right now. So that's what I've done. I've dug through those major websites, the best sellers, and ranked everything out according to what looks like to me the top 10 best-selling fragrances right now for men. And all of the fragrances I talked to you about here today are linked in the description below, so feel free to check them out down there. Let's get started with the number 10 best-selling men's fragrance, at least as of right this moment when I'm filming. None other than Dior's Sauvage Elixir. It is extremely popular, and also compared to other designer fragrances, it's extremely expensive as well. And this one sells better on Macy's, surprisingly. So it's ranked in the top 4 at Macy's as of when I'm shooting this. On the other websites, it's ranked lower, but still ranked high enough that you can tell it's still a best-selling fragrance. And where it is more expensive, they don't have to sell quite as many bottles of this to make the same amount of money as something else that's much more affordable. Because if this one is pushing 200 bucks and you've got another one that's like 115, obviously this one you have to sell fewer bottles to make the same amount of money. And we're gonna talk more about Sauvage and some other blue fragrances as this video goes on, but there does appear to be a little bit of a shifting tide. This one is holding steady for the most part. It's always kind of been right in this range as far as best sellers. But there are some other things that are really interesting that we're gonna get to. So as far as how this one smells, it's very masculine, woodsy, spicy, very strong, powerful, huge performance. Definitely more of a fall, winter time fragrance, daytime or evening. And as I've said a bunch of times, it reminds me a little bit of fragrances from the 80s, but done in a more modern way with a higher quality of ingredients. So Sauvage Elixir, still very popular, still selling very well. And since we're talking Dior here right off the rip, I also looked up Sauvage Eau Forte and the new Dior Homme Parfum. So if we're talking the big retail stores in the US, Macy's is probably the biggest as far as retail designer fragrances are concerned. There's also Ulta, there's Sephora, there's Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus, Dillard's, a lot of places sell fragrances. And you've got like Perfumania and the Fragrance Outlet among other stores as well that you're gonna find in malls or in outlet stores. But Macy's is probably the biggest. That's one of the ones that you can really kind of keep your eye on and tell which way the wind is blowing. So when I sorted by bestsellers and I was looking through everything, I had to go all the way to page 9 before I found Sauvage Eau Forte as far as best-selling fragrances are concerned. And in case you're wondering, oh, what does page 9 mean? Well, it's pretty far down there, especially for a new Sauvage fragrance, and it ranked 4 places behind CK1. Yeah, so not really destroying as far as sales go, which is maybe not a surprise. I'm sure a lot of you out there, when Sauvage Eau Forte came out, thought to yourselves, I can't imagine this taking off as far as like matching the sales numbers of every single other Sauvage fragrance that came before it. And if you thought that, yeah, it looks like you're correct. And if you look at Sephora, it also is not performing that well as far as sales. It is just behind Burberry Hero Parfum, which is the worst selling in the Burberry Hero lineup. Another fragrance that came out, and maybe we would have all thought before it came out this is gonna be a smash hit, Y Elixir, also not doing so hot. It's on page 8 as far as the best-selling rankings on Macy's are concerned, which is one ahead of Burberry Hero Parfum, and also one behind Gentleman Boisé. So Y Elixir and Sauvage Eau Forte are two fragrances that prove just because you have the name doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a huge hit as far as sales go. But there's also this one, the new Dior Homme Parfum, which surprisingly is actually doing pretty well, it looks like. As far as Macy's bestseller rankings go, it's right up toward the top of page 2. So way ahead of Sauvage Eau Forte, and it's also doing pretty well on the other fragrance websites as well. On Sephora, it's outselling Gucci Guilty, at least as of this video it is. And Gucci Guilty is a long time top 30 best-selling men's fragrance. And on Macy's, it is just behind MYSLF Le Parfum. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the new Dior Homme Parfum. I like the initial opening, you know, nice, irisy, but as it dries down, it's not quite as nice. I definitely prefer the original Dior Homme Parfum, but as far as sales go, this looks like the best-selling Dior Homme as of right now. Obviously, that could change. It is new, so it's not exactly apples to apples. The others have been out longer, but it is ranked way higher than Sauvage Eau Forte ever was. All right, back to the list. Number 9, The Most Wanted from Azzaro, which is easily the most popular best-selling fragrance that the house has. Basically, when it comes to Azzaro, as far as sales, it's the most wanted and the most wanted parfum and everything else way down here. I mean, yes, Chrome has been out forever and there are a lot of Chrome flankers and a lot of people that love Chrome, but it doesn't quite hit the same way as far as sales numbers go as this one. And it makes sense why. The Most Wanted is done in a way that's extremely popular nowadays. Warm, sweet, sexy, loud, strong. That's what's going on here. You know, a little bit similar to something like Stronger With You from Emporio Armani. Great evening fragrance, another fall wintertime scent, and a great seller. Number 8 is Y Eau de Parfum, surprisingly. It does look, at least looking at the US bestsellers right now, that Y Eau de Parfum year over year is starting to slip a little bit. On Ulta, it is 7th as of right now. On Sephora, it is 9th. And at Macy's, it's actually around 10th. So yeah, not exactly right up there battling for a top 5 spot. And this is something that we're gonna have to kind of keep our eyes on as time goes on. Blue fragrances have kind of been the biggest, most popular style of fragrance for a long time now. I mean, Bleu de Chanel definitely set that in motion, but Dior Sauvage really anchored that in. And I'm not saying that they are not popular. They obviously still are in a massive, massive way. But there has been a little change here that's happened over the last couple of years. It's really started to take hold. Some sweeter fragrances, like this one, louder, stronger fragrances, have started to become more popular. And you'll see that even more as this list goes on. Now, Y Eau de Parfum, this is actually one of my favorite blue fragrances. I really love this stuff. I think it's extremely versatile, great compliment puller. It does have good performance. The apple that's in here smells amazing off the top, very attention grabbing. The amberwood is great as it dries down, but it finds itself down here in 8. Now, as I said, most everything that I'm pulling from today is retail pricing, but pretty much every fragrance I share with you here today, you can find at discounters for a lot less. So if you look for these fragrances or any others at discounters, you can use these codes here to save even more money than what you see on those sites. You have to download the JOMASHOP app, which basically looks the exact same as their website. The Max Aroma, Perfume Box, Fragflex, and Triple Traders codes, all the other codes there, you can use those on the websites like usual. Number 7 is Stronger With You Intensely from Emporio Armani. And this is one I wouldn't be surprised to see climb up even more as the year goes on, because actually, these fragrances, Stronger With You, Intensely Stronger With You, absolutely, for the longest time in the US, you could only find at discounters, which kind of limited their reach. You know, in the US, if you can't go into Macy's or Sephora and pick up the fragrance, you're losing a lot of your audience right there. So people were just buying it through the gray market, and a lot of times they were sold out, but now they're readily available. And not long after they became available, they skyrocketed up the bestsellers charts. And it also doesn't hurt that Stronger With You Intensely at full retail is actually one of the cheapest designer fragrances that you can get. at least from designer brands that people actually know. I think it's like $110 full retail. It is stupid cheap when you consider how strong it is and how much of a compliment puller it is. It gives it a little bit of a head start for a lot of guys, especially younger guys who are looking for something really sweet. Like I said, sweet, strong fragrances, really popular right now. Stronger With You Intensely, one of the best for that low price, at least considering retail. Number 6 is Eros Eau de Parfum, which is a fragrance line that just kind of stands the test of time, keeps on selling. And it doesn't hurt that Eros Eau de Parfum is what we've talked about already. It's sweet and pretty strong. So it has mint, apple, and citrus, along with vanilla, ambroxan, and some woody notes as well as it dries down. It's a scent that a lot of people would use year round, daytime or nighttime. So it does have that versatility that helps it sell even more. And a lot of these fragrances, you're going to notice the best selling of the lineup is the Eau de Parfum. So why Eau de Parfum? Eros Eau de Parfum. Some of the other fragrances coming up, the Eau de Parfum. I feel like in a lot of people's minds, it's like the Goldilocks, right? There's the Eau de Toilette, there's the Parfum. Nah, just split the difference. Get the Eau de Parfum. So Eros EDP right there. Number 5 is kind of a split. It's Le Male Le Parfum and also Elixir. So depending on where you look, these will actually be right next to each other sometimes. You know, one will be number 5 and the other will be number 6, for example. On some websites, Le Male Le Parfum is outselling Le Male Elixir. Other websites, it's reversed. So I just took them and put them together. And it makes sense. They're really similar in a lot of ways as far as how the scent profile comes across. Some people prefer this one, others prefer that one. If I were gonna take just one of these, I prefer the Elixir a little bit more. That honeyed scent profile that it has works really well for me. It's slightly less powdery off my skin than Le Male Le Parfum, but both smell absolutely amazing. They're both fantastic releases. Another fall-winter combo here. Both are selling really well, and this is another situation similar to Stronger With You Intensely over here. For a long time in the US, not easy to find. You're having to go through discounters. Now they are readily available everywhere. So because of that, their popularity is skyrocketing. And once again, I would not be surprised to see these maintaining in that top 10 area, kind of right there at the top 5. And the fragrances that are above this, pretty big. All right, we're at number 4, and it is Born in Roma Intense from Valentino, which this one actually has an argument to be number 3. Number 3 and 4 are very close. This stuff has just continued to gain in popularity. Looking at the best-selling rankings on these websites, it continues to slowly climb up. On Ulta, Macy's, and Sephora, this one ranges between basically number 3 to number 5, kind of right in that range. Just crazy popular, and it makes sense to an extent. The original Born in Roma is actually surprisingly popular. That one is one that some people don't realize it sells as well as it does. And to me, this is far and away the best of the Born in Roma lineup right now. So it makes sense that it would sell extremely well. Pretty simple note breakdown. It's got a good amount of vanilla in there. In the air also, oof. Massive compliment puller. It smells fantastic. You just want to keep catching whiffs of it all day. It's got good performance as well. It's not crazy expensive at retail. That definitely helps. Has great versatility. I think spring, fall, winter. During summer, probably go for something else just because it's really sweet, but it smells great. People love it, and it's a good confidence booster as well. All right, number 3 is Myself, the Eau de Parfum. Yeah, that stuff. So when Myself released, it came out, I think it was like middle of August, and from August to the end of December, end of the year, that was the top 10 best-selling fragrance. And when I say top 10 best-selling, I don't mean, oh, it was within the top 10 bestsellers from that point that it came out to the end of the year. That's not what I mean. What I mean is, in that 3.5 month span, it went from unranked, because I had no sales, to a top 10 best-selling fragrance, as in for the entirety of the year. You know, all those other fragrances had, this one catapulted past those. In 3.5 months, it sold more than 99.9% of fragrances did in the entire year. It was just an immediate hit, a smash hit, really easy to wear. It's Orange Blossom Forward, very clean, a little bit sweet. It's a massive compliment puller once again. I mean, pretty much all these are, which goes to show you what sells, right? It's so easy to wear that what happens is people get it, they spray it on, they like it, they get good reactions, and they spray it on more and more. They use the bottle, they buy another one. Repeat over and over. And that makes those sales numbers. So on Sephora, this was number 2. Yeah, the number 2 bestseller on Sephora as of right now. Macy's, it was a little further down. It was like number 5 or so on Macy's. And then Ulta, number 2. So myself, absolutely crushing it, extremely popular. This one does outsell the Le Parfum by a pretty good margin. And as of right now, I'd say this is the best-selling, most popular fragrance that YSL has. It crushes the L'Homme line, it crushes La Nuit de L'Homme, and the only one that comes close really is Y Eau de Parfum. Now, to be fair, I don't have the full year's sales numbers for 2024 just yet. Hopefully I get those before too long, and then we'll be able to contrast and compare how this one did for the whole year and see where it winds up. But right now, I'm gonna put it right there, number 3. And you guys know what the deal is, number 2 and number 1. Number 2 is Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum. So once again, an Eau de Parfum being the best seller. This was number 3 on Ulta, number 1 on Macy's, and then number 5 on Sephora. So 5, 3, 1. And one thing that I noticed and have been noticing is those top rankings started to get shaken up a little bit. So for the longest time, if you looked at the best sellers on these websites that I've been talking about, you would see Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum, Sauvage Eau de Parfum, Sauvage Eau de Toilette, Sauvage Parfum, Bleu de Chanel Parfum, Bleu de Chanel Eau de Toilette. You would just see all the top rankings would be every flanker, every version of Bleu de Chanel and Sauvage, and then you'd see Y popping in there, Y Eau de Parfum, Y Le Parfum. And what's happening now is, yeah, you're still seeing some of those fragrances, Bleu de Chanel, Eau de Parfum, Sauvage, Eau de Parfum, but then you'll see other things at number 3, number 4, number 5. And where Sauvage Eau de Toilette used to be number 1 across every single website, now you might see it down at number 6, number 7, number 8. So it looks like a lot of these fragrances and other ones that are just below, you know, number 11 through 20 or something like that, they're moving up. And some of these blue fragrances are slowly matriculating down. Not that they're unpopular, not that they're unpopular. You know, if Bleu de Chanel Eau de Toilette is still the number 10 best-selling fragrance or something like that, obviously it's still very, very popular. And I did keep it to just 1 fragrance per line, other than Sauvage Elixir, because that's kind of its own thing. But just for an example, on Macy's, Sauvage Eau de Toilette is the number 8 bestseller as of right now. On Ulta, Bleu de Chanel Eau de Toilette is number 14. Not that long ago, you wouldn't have seen that. But anyway, back to this Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum, I feel like is probably the most versatile blue fragrance as far as designers go that there is, which is saying something because that's what blue fragrances are supposed to be, right? They're the versatile, easy to wear, some would say generic type of fragrance. I think this is the most generic of them all in the absolute best way possible. Very classy, high quality, great compliment puller. You can wear it day or night, any season. Fantastic release, which is why I have this monstrous 150 ml size bottle, because my 100 ml was right at the very bottom. Had to get a new one. Figured why not get a lifetime supply. So number 1, not a surprise, it is Dior Sauvage, and it is the Eau de Parfum. So that was number 1 on Ulta, number 1 on Sephora, number 2 on Macy's. What can you say? Sauvage has been the best-selling men's fragrance ever since it came out, and it continues to be the best-selling fragrance, but with those caveats that I just brought up with Bleu de Chanel. And I feel like Sauvage Eau Forte definitely didn't really help the name. Not that people are gonna not care about the next Sauvage release, whenever that is, because they definitely will. But that to me is a pretty big whiff. And it wouldn't surprise me if Sauvage Eau Forte goes the way of Very Cool Spray, where it's something that came out and they thought at the time like, oh, this is a really novel idea. Maybe it'll catch on in a huge way. And they overestimated things. It flops, and then they go, let's pretend that didn't happen. But Sauvage Eau Forte can take nothing away from this. Massively successful Sauvage Eau de Parfum number 1. So there we go, guys. That is your lineup. That is how it looks right now. There are a lot of other very popular fragrances that are just outside the top 10. Some of the bigger surprises here would be Born in Roma Intense, and how quickly the Jean Paul Gaultier and Emporio Armani fragrances moved right up into the top 10, ahead of some other really, really big ones. Thank you guys for hanging with me here today. Stay safe out there, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.
Thank you.